It has been quite a while since I did a video, and I don't know exactly how long it's been, but I think it's been a while. But I haven't really felt like doing a video for quite a long time because I've just had some real life things going on that we've been dealing with as a family. So, but I am going to do a video now because I have bought a couple of new Spectrum games, and I've chosen to do this one, Tarzan Goes Ape, which is very interesting for me because this is one of those games that wasn't released on the Amstrad originally, so I had no chance of playing it at the time, and it looks to be like a fairly okay platform game. So I'm going to set up my Spectrum and I'm going to play a little bit of Tarzan Goes Ape. These Sinclair machines are always weird, quirky things. It's been a while since I last set this up and I can't remember the correct way to connect it to a tape player. See, the thing is, I won't get any sound unless I plug my SCART cable into one of these two ports, but the other one is to load to tape, load from tape, and the other is to record to tape, and I just can't remember which one's the right one. But I do want to plug my SCART cable in here because I want to be able to hear music as well. Once I've worked out the correct way to plug this all in, then I'm going to load up some Tarzan Goes Ape and I'll play a little bit of that. Listen to that buzzing. That's real hardware for you. It turns out I did plug the cables in wrong, so I did have to quickly sort them out before I started loading. It's only the Spectrum that I ever get confused by the different cables. Something like the Auric, it never becomes a problem. I don't know what it is about the Spectrum. And now the loading screen. The loading screen's just an advert for 4 other games. I guess they just didn't get somebody to draw a loading screen for this game. Now, like I said, I didn't plug the cables in properly originally, so there should be music here, but I've got to quickly get them right. Yeah, it's not the greatest music in the world, is it? But I did end up having another problem, which it sounds really, really stupid, but I did have a problem with it. I just couldn't start the game because for some reason the joystick buttons is the same as pressing numbers. As you can see here, I'm using the joystick to try to define the keys, and the fire button is 5. which selects define keys. So I kept going back to the define keys screen when pressing fire to start. So can you see the problem I'm having here? I can't remember what I did, but I worked something out and I was able to use my joystick to control the game. But, yeah, what a weird problem. Maybe I swapped over my joystick and I used Kempston instead of Sinclair or something. Here we are. Full colour? Yes please, I'd like some colours. Alright, here we go. The main character doesn't look very much like Tarzan, does he? He looks a bit like a teddy bear. But he is supposed to be an ape. Or a monkey. A chimpanzee, maybe? Or a bonobo? Well, anyway, I think the name of the game makes sense, doesn't it? When you read the story and find out that Tarzan has been turned into an ape. And the aim of the game is to turn yourself back by collecting ingredients to put into a cauldron. The game itself isn't perfectly smooth, but actually that kind of makes sense on a Spectrum, because if you had pixel perfect movements, then the colour would kind of judder and be out of sync with the pixels. So if it moves in steps of 8, then the colour can sync up with the movement. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird old thing with the Spectrum. And also, if you hold up, you jump, so you can end up accidentally jumping at the end of one of those vines. But that's just, that's what happens when you have joysticks as a control method on these old computer games. Right, I've collected a little mask there. So you can see at the top there's 2 flashing items. Once I've collected all of the items, then I'll be able to move on to the next level, I think. But this game actually controls quite well. You can see it's not particularly smooth, but it is smooth enough. And it moves fast enough. It's a little bit easy, maybe, but it's yeah, this is perfectly good. Even though by this point the Spectrum had been out for the best part of 10 years, it still could do games like this quite comfortably. I know there was talk at one point of home computers getting versions of the first Sonic the Hedgehog game, although that didn't come to anything. But there might have ended up being a Sonic the Hedgehog game released for the ZX Spectrum at some point, and it would have been released about the same time as this game. So goodness knows how Sonic the Hedgehog 1 would have looked on a ZX Spectrum. Well, I think the scope of a lot of Spectrum games was a little bit simplistic compared to the best of the best 16-bit games at the time. I don't think you get any power-ups or anything in this, but you get pretty much infinite projectiles to kill the enemies with. I think you have to avoid that skull, so I'll just jump over it to be safe. Actually, if you notice, that main character does look quite expressive. He looks a bit goofy though, doesn't he? It looks a bit cartoony, but I think a lot of Spectrum games were cartoony because they were really, at this point, it was mostly children playing on ZX Spectrums. I mean, I know at least with our Amstrad CPC, we carried on buying magazines right up until the end of 1992, and I think it became pretty difficult to even find games in shops anymore. And so there was a long period of time where we just didn't have any new games for the Amstrad, and we didn't have any other computers or anything like that. And one day my dad just had ordered a Mega Drive from a catalogue, and it arrived, and he just had it set up on the TV. And I never looked back at that point. I think the last game I ever bought for the Amstrad was either Bubble Dizzy or it was Tag Team Wrestling, which must have been pretty late 1992. But I don't know, I mean, these machines... I think I'm going to die here. Yeah. Yeah, don't touch the skulls. I think machines like the Spectrum and the Amstrad and the Commodore 64 could have carried on. My name's Andy, so... Actually, is Andy a girl's name as well? I think that girl in the Goonies was called Andy, wasn't she? Yeah, anyway. It looks like the video's ended. Yeah, Tarzan Goes Ape is a pretty good game, actually. I mean, you might have noticed there wasn't any AY music at any point during that, but even so, I think Tarzan Goes Ape is a pretty good game for the ZX Spectrum, and it's one that I'll probably load up again at some point and try to get a little further. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you for watching.